The Cherokee language is the foundation of our culture, spoken by our ancestors for thousands of years, and is still the first language today for about 1,400 living Cherokee Nation citizens. Osio Nagad, Jennifer Loren Dagodo, Noksi Chalagi Gadi. It's been 3 years since our initial event covering the Cherokee language, and so much has happened in that time period. Today, we will catch you up on the continuing resurgence of language warriors throughout the reservation and the at-large communities. We'll start today's show with remarks from Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. Then Chief Hoskin will join me here for a Q&A with Julie Mackey, Deputy Executive Director of Cherokee Language. After that, Deputy Chief Bryan Warner will sit down with Tribal Councilor Melvina Shotpouch, a first language speaker. And finally, we will be joined by the Cherokee Adult Choir. And now it is my pleasure to introduce my friend and Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. for his remarks.
Osio, today I want to talk to you about something at the very heart of who we are as a people, our language. The Cherokee language is more than a collection of words. It carries our history, our way of life, and our community values. When we speak it, we honor the voices of our ancestors and secure for future generations the chance to know themselves as Cherokee. In 2025, we are making historic progress in our mission to revitalize our language. Through our Speaker Services program, members of our language staff are working directly with fluent speakers to improve their quality of life. We also host our annual gathering of speakers, a critical event used to connect and share purpose. Whether you're just beginning your journey or are working towards fluency, there is a place for you in this circle of learning. We are constructing new facilities to keep up with the increased demand for language learning, not just in our capital city of Tahlequah, but in rural communities like Greasy and now Kenwood, where we are just beginning to develop a Cherokee language haven. Our efforts reach far beyond the Cherokee Nation Reservation. For our at-large citizens, we are creating more opportunities than ever before, from online classes and virtual gathering to cultural events. We promise that every Cherokee, no matter where they live, has a clear path to learn our language. One of our most exciting initiatives is our film and television dubbing project. By putting Cherokee voices into popular movies and shows, we bring our language into homes across the globe. When a child can watch a favorite film in Cherokee, they don't just hear the words, they see themselves reflected in a modern, living language. This is a powerful affirmation of our identity. We recently modernized and updated the dictionary and released a new language app where you can hear words and phrases spoken by a first language speaker. We also have a New Testament app called Cherokee Book of Praise that speakers can utilize on their mobile phones. These efforts are guided by a timeless value that defines us, Gadugi, the Cherokee spirit of working together. It also reflects our deep respect for our elders and our sacred responsibility to the next generation. Every class, every recording, and every conversation spoken in Cherokee is an act of preservation. Along with Deputy Chief Bryan Warner, our message is simple. This is our moment. Together, we will ensure that the Cherokee language is not only preserved, but spoken by our children and their children's children. Wherever you are, however you choose to learn, you are a vital part of this endeavor. Let us keep learning and let us keep teaching so that our language remains alive and strong. Wado.
Welcome, Chief. Thank you very much for joining me again today. And with us is Julie Mackey, the Deputy Executive Director of Language at Cherokee Nation. Wado for being here, Julie.
Wado.
So as usual, we want this to be a conversation with you both, so jump in wherever you wish. But Chief, we'll begin with you. We all know Cherokee Nation has been working for decades to preserve and grow our language. And in recent years, there has been a big push to educate more of our citizens about those efforts. So from your perspective, what are some of the things the Language Department is doing now that you think maybe still aren't widely known by our citizens?
Well, I want to start with something relatively small given the whole language program, but really important, I think really neat, is we have a food truck that is a Cherokee speaker food truck. And the concept is that some of our staff will work the food truck. You better know how to order in Cherokee if you want to get fed. But the idea, and this is what I really love about the Language Department, is they're generating ideas, putting those ideas into action to make the language more organic and accessible among not only the second language speaker population and of course the fluent speakers, but everyone else, including the chief who don't speak Cherokee, but find this to be a really engaging thing. So that's one small example of how the language department is really finding different ways to connect. There's a whole host of other things that I think people may not be aware of, and I know Julie's very involved in this, and a lot of the staff that she works with, but working with major motion picture companies, doing some really exciting projects to bring the language to kids and to adults. Those things are important, and then I think sometimes the expansion of our language program gets lost in how quickly it's expanding. And so we think about the Master Apprentice program growing from less than a decade ago, a very small program, to one that's not only growing in Tahlequah, but also growing into other communities like Greasy and more recently Kenwood. So the size and the growth is also something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily see at the surface.
And Julie, you've been a part of a lot of the growth that he's speaking of.
Yes, and as he mentioned, the motion picture, we recently partnered with DreamWorks and NBC Universal to dub How to Train a Dragon in
So
Cherokee.
cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. We had a red carpet event where we invited admin and the immersion school students, our CLMAP participants, the voice actors. They all came and we watched the movie together in Cherokee. So that was a really big event. That's also streaming on Peacock now. And along those lines, we partnered with Amazon to dub the first season of Rings of Power.
So I think people out there anyone can watch How to Train Your Dragon in the Cherokee language, but if they have the Peacock app, right? And so you just
Yes.
I heard you just switch the language to Cherokee. And
Absolutely. Yes, you
That's so
just,
cool.
you can do a trial with Peacock and you have it there just like you would with Spanish or English or any other. You just switch it to Cherokee and you have it all there in our language. And so it's really cool.
Yeah.
So then we also have our speaker village next door to the Durbin Feeling Language Center, where we have first language speakers who live next door to second language families. So our hope is that this will organically turn into a Cherokee language learning environment. We also have a new community center within the village being built, and when it opens, we'll have language activities there centralized for the people there in the village.
Such a cool concept, and really neat when you're driving through Tahlequah to see it coming to life and know people that are living there. It's really neat. So Julie, the Cherokee Language Master Apprentice Program, or CLMAP, as we say, it's been in place for over a decade, and the Cherokee Immersion School has served our community for more than 20 years. So over time, we've seen meaningful changes and improvements in both. Can you speak about those changes and the improvements?
Absolutely. So CLMAP moved from a one-room classroom at the Court Mall downtown to the Durbin Feeling Language Center in 2021. We now have 4 classrooms with 8 participants in each class. They progress classroom to the next classroom every 6 months, and then they graduate in 2 years. So once they graduate, we typically hire them in the immersion school or for the curriculum team, or just somewhere in the language department wherever we see their strengths, wherever we think we can use them. So we also have a cohort, as Chief mentioned, at Greasy, and the Greasy cohort, once they graduate, will be placed in the Greasy immersion classrooms, where we actually just did a $5 million renovation that the folks there are super excited about.
Yeah.
And then, again, as he mentioned, we have the Kenwood CLMAP cohort now, which is super exciting to have in that community. So what's great about hiring CLMAP graduates is that they're typically younger and more tech savvy, and they can take what they've learned from our first language speakers and incorporate technology and use that in the classroom to teach our language. And then we have our curriculum team who are focusing on integrating academic content into cultural activities and taking traditional Cherokee stories for all of our immersion programs. So a lot happening.
Yeah.
We have our brand new middle school opening up next year. So we're really excited about that. So what that's going to do is house our 4th through 8th grades, and we're going to be able to expand our baby immersion. Big things happening there. The babies are becoming first language speakers again. We're seeing first language speakers again, and it'll bless your heart. If you're ever in the Language Center, please go see the babies, because they only speak Cherokee in the classroom
It's
to
so
them, and that's all
moving
they
to
hear.
see.
Yes.
It's amazing, and one of the things that's really remarkable and just brings me a lot of joy to see with the expansion of CLMAP and the immersion school, the success of both programs, and then combine that with the passage of time is what we see now is we'll have immersion students who we can't believe that they've grown up, but they've grown up and they're going through CLMAP. Some of them are going down and working in the immersion school. Maybe they're working in baby immersion, maybe they're in Kenwood, maybe they're in Greasy. As these things grow and we see success, it's really just, it's an environment, right?
Absolutely.
And it's growing together. And I like to see that success. It's not something that can happen quickly overnight. It takes time, but the language department is really putting a lot of work into this.
We've been playing the long game, and it's paying off. And there's nothing that brings more pride than being in the Durbin Feeling Language Center and seeing all of the great work that's being done. So, Chief, this Cherokee Wherever We Are series reaches Cherokees and their families everywhere, including many at-large citizens. Would you share how the at-large community-based language courses originated?
Well, it originated because at-large citizens asked for it. A lot of them asked for it across the country. As people know, we travel about 10 months out of the year to dozens of different community organizations in a lot of urban areas of the country. There's a hunger for the language, whether you're here, you see it, among staff members, among families, and the general public in the reservation, but there's a hunger also at large, and I think part of that hunger is driven by this geographic disconnect, but the language feels like something they can contribute to, and they can. So we have, of course, wonderful distance learning content. We've seen that developed over the years. But what there was a real desire for was in-person language instruction. And I have to hand it to the language department. That's a big undertaking to go out across the country and deliver in-person language content, but they've done it. And it's a blend. It's in-person, and then it's a mix of, I think, some virtual learning as well. The feedback's incredible. But I think it does show Cherokees living at large that there's great power in their suggestions, their recommendations, their aspirations. If we listen to them, and we are listening to them, and I think that's a great case study in how organizing the grassroots in at-large communities can result in something that's really important, because this isn't just superficial. These are people that are really involved in the language, and I think it helps contribute to this big mission that we're on.
Absolutely. So, Julie, how are those courses being welcomed among the at-large communities?
Well, the at-large communities are loving it. They, the JPs, JP Wofford, JP Johnson, we get, like Chief said, we get consistent positive feedback on their teaching methods. So what they do is they do a virtual session to introduce the lessons, and they travel in person and teach the lessons, and then they do a follow-up virtual session where they reinforce what they taught. And so the communities are really giving a lot of positive feedback in the way that they do that. And then we have Ed Field's online classes, and that's super popular. He teaches Cherokee 1 through Cherokee 4, and we have had over 5,000 participants in his online classes in a year's time. And so that's a really popular one as well.
Great. Well, it's great to hear how popular the program is with at-large citizens, and it's just amazing to hear people speaking the Cherokee language in California or wherever they are. So how do people find out about courses in their area?
Cherokee citizens living at large can go to cherokeesatlarge.org. There's a lot of information there, including the schedule of language programs. And of course, if you're in an area where there is an at-large community organization, get involved. You can really get connected that way.
Great. Good information. Okay, so Julie, let's start with you. What are some new projects on the horizon for the language department?
So as mentioned, we have partnerships with Amazon, and so our dubbing team is going to continue to learn more about the dubbing aspects of that and create more content in Cherokee. So we look forward to many more movies in the language that we'll be able to see. And then we have a hunting and outdoor club, which is brand new, being led by Steve and Colleen Doherty for junior high and high school Cherokee-speaking students. And we also have the Kenwood Language and Culture Reserve that our immersion school and the adult language learners are using for land-based education. And then, as Chief mentioned earlier in his intro, we have several apps coming out that are going to be available. So you have the language at the palm of your hand. And so we just have so many things happening and coming out.
All right. Well, Is there anything else you all want to add?
Good times ahead.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I can say, as a small part of the language program's awesomeness, that Cherokee Film, here at Cherokee Film, we are so fortunate to work with such culture-driven people through the tribe who work tirelessly to help perpetuate and preserve our sacred language. It's really an honor to have you both here and to talk about this and to see all of the work that's going on. It's great. Thank you. Wado. And now we turn it over to my friend, Deputy Chief Bryan Warner, who is with the only first language speaker on the current Tribal Council, Melvina Shotpouch. Deputy?
Wado, Jen. See you on the God. Hello, everyone. It's Deputy Principal Chief Bryan Warner here again with another episode of Cherokees Wherever We Are. And today we have a special lady with us. We have Council Lady Melvina Shotpouch. Melvina, thank you for joining us today.
Glad to do it.
Well, I know I've gotten the blessing to be able to spend some time with you, your family, whether we were at a gigging or whether we were at a Shotpouch hog fry or just a community meeting. Melvina, one of the things that I've always treasured about you is your love for the language. Can you tell myself and the audience maybe a little bit about like growing up in Delaware County, what it was like, where you learned the language, what it was like being in that home?
Well, it was first, my grandmother raised me, and I was probably about a year old when Grandma got me because I had twin brothers born a year after I was born, and that kind of threw me out of the nest. Somebody had to care for me. But anyway, my grandma raised me, and from day one, it was always, she was very cultural, and she didn't speak English, and so that was my first language. I never learned anything else but that till I started school when I was about 5 years old, and I didn't know how to speak English. But I had some friends, older kids that went to school, and they helped me to navigate, getting things, in school. If I had questions, they always helped me until I could learn a few words. And so it was my grandmother that took me and taught me all the culture.
Right, at a very young age. And right now we're sitting in the Durbin Field and Language Center. There's kids all around here, and you're telling me stories about when you were growing up. Personally, though, how does it make you feel today to see so many of the youth taking to the language?
I think it's great, and that's where it needs to be started while they're very young. I think at probably around the age of 3, their brain is kind of magnetic. They can pick up. Even with my great niece nephew, I can say words to them, and they can repeat it right back. And so I think, that is the good starting point to have those young ones.
I agree. Well, and you mentioned your grandmother. How do you think your ancestors would feel today to see all of the investments in language, like here at Durbin and other places, and some of the programs that we're doing, and you're a big part of that? How do you think they would feel about what
I
we're doing?
think they would feel really great about it, because now that back then it was plentiful, like everybody spoke it, but now we're kind of grasping for what we've got left and we need, and they would be happy to see that it's been preserved, what they cherished. And because my grandma used to say, speak your language, your given language, one of these days it'll be gone, if we don't use it. Right. And so there's a good, they would be very proud to have this today.
Yes, well, and I'm very proud myself of the efforts that yourself and other counselors have taken. Now, Melvina, you've seen this tribe through a lot of different times, and you've sat on that council at a time when maybe resources weren't as plentiful as they are today. Can you tell me some of these transitions and what it means to make that investment, not just within language, but healthcare, education, and all those things from the time that you were first on council to now?
I think that is great, because the time, in the past is pretty limited to what can be done, and programs was pretty limited too. Now we have such a widespread of different programs. It seems like there's program for everything that we're trying to work with people to get us to maybe first class. And I feel like we're up there, and with the effort of all the council and our leaders and you and the chief, you work hard at it to keep, things, not only just, some new things that comes around that fits our programs, and I think it's great.
Well, yes, ma'am. And I know that Kenwood area, it's close to home for you, and You know, a lot of those folks that live in that area, you've seen the investment that we made in Kenwood. You've seen the investment that we made in places like Marble City and here and other places. How does that, how do you feel about continuing those types of investments in parts of the world that some people just, quite frankly, have forgotten about?
I think it's very good because I see the life that has came in those towns and cities. I've been to Marble City when I was growing up young and have relatives there, and in Kenwood, there are similarities to those two towns. But in the past, even when I first got on council, I'd go to the school and I could see the kids, needed motivation. They needed something that they could be proud of, that they could say that was their home.
Right.
And today, you can go down to Kenwood, you hear all those kids playing and just so they're just so alive now. Even when last time I went to Marble City, and it was the same way.
Yes, ma'am.
And they've got hope and continue to keep that fire going.
That's right. So, looking at what we've been able to do, not just in Kenwood, but being in Greasy, expanding that immersion school, what we're doing here at Durbin, just west of here, we're building a new immersion middle school. All of those things are very important. It's so important. What do you think, Melvina, kind of looking into the future, what's your thoughts on continuing to move in this direction?
I think that's great. And I see the apprentice program, graduates coming out there that gives hope to place more, in other schools and cover bigger areas with
Yes, ma'am.
with those graduates.
Yes, ma'am. I'm glad you mentioned the Master Apprentice Language Program. I'm so fond of kids and different things, but I get hung up sometimes. But reminder, we've got to have teachers. And just like you said, so that Master Apprentice Program is equipping individuals to make sure, they may be second language learners, but we're trying to raise up new fluent learners, and it's so important. Melvina, there's so many things that we've been blessed with here, and language seems to be the center of everything, whether it's education, healthcare, human services, career services, all these different things. The kids of today, what would you say to them? No matter, even if they don't work, let's say in the Cherokee Nation Language Program, but they're language proficient and they go out, what would be your message to them today of encouragement?
I would say continue to work at, learning, just keep learning. And I know the second language may not be what is the fluent language, but we're still preserving what is there, and the more they use it, the more they talk, the better they get at it, and the more they hear. And I think that's with the children. Sometimes I worry, do they hear it after they leave here at home? It's, you have to kind of hear it quite a bit, and so I feel like that's very important to continue to.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, and you start looking at a department like Speaker Services and what we're being able to do for our elder speakers and some of these speaker villages. We're able to put an elderly couple or an individual in a spot, and right next to them a family that is working within the language. I think that's extremely important.
Yeah.
Would you like to see some of those things? What's your ideas on perpetuating and moving that forward?
I think that's a great idea because, like I said, you have to hear the language. You have to keep hearing it constantly to really to keep it and learn more. I mean, when they've got somebody like that, even our little kids that in the family, we tell them words and they repeat it, but they have to hear it more than once or twice, a day. And then I think that's great to have those people living in, neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am. Melvina, just kind of a personal note, like in your family, I know you're a speaker. How many of your family members are fluent speakers that you've got,
All of us, there was 9 kids in my family, 3 are deceased, so there are 6 of us left, and we all, keep it. And my 2 sons, they don't speak it fluently, but they can say and understand quite a bit, and that's, to them, now it's their place to pass it on, and they've got to keep it in order to do that.
Yes.
So
And Melvina, we've talked a lot about other different things, but your family is something that comes to mind. How many fluent speakers do you still have within your family?
6 of us. There was 9 kids, and there's 3's deceased, so 6 of us still left that
Right.
Yeah. And the youngest one is 55.
55. And now your boys, do they speak a little bit?
They speak a little bit and they understand, pretty good in their 40s. So, and I think they need to hear it more. But like I said, they live now in their own homes and they speak, don't speak their language as often as being around us,
Right. Well, it's important, like you said earlier, to be able to, at the immersion school, that's one of the things that we wonder about, are we sending them back to a home where the language is still being spoken? And I think that's important. I always pose this question to a lot of people: how do we live as traditional as we can in the 21st century with all this different types of technology? I think that's one of those things that hold us back or holds us to our traditions is family. And your family is deeply rooted in Delaware County. And Melvina, I appreciate you. I appreciate your wisdom. I really appreciate your time, because that's a currency that we just we spend that all day, every day. And you've spent a lot of time helping the Cherokee people, not just in your district, Melvina, all over the world. So if you had, in closing, one thing that you would like to tell, not just the young folks, but just everybody that might be listening, something that important to you personally about the language that you would like people to carry on.
Well, I would say we have less than 2,000 speakers, and maybe that lives out in the rural area. Listen and adhere what they have to say, what they tell you. Maybe write it down. I mean, it's important to remember those things. And there are some things I wished I had written down or, kept, that what my grandmother taught me. But I think it's very important to have those ties to those less than 2,000 speakers that we have left here.
Yes, ma'am. Well, those are very important and wise words, and encouraging for each and every one of us. So, Melvina, Wado, thank you for being here today. And one thing that one of my assistants always taught me, Miss Carla, she says, "Gagayui, I love you." And your family has always shown love to the Cherokee people, and anybody that does that, I would have to say, "Gagayui, I love you." So, well, now, Jen, back to you.
That was excellent. Wado Deputy Chief and Councilor Shotpouch, we appreciate you. And finally today, we have a special treat for you. We are joined by the Cherokee Adult Choir. Take it away. That's going to do it for us today. We hope you've enjoyed our show. And remember, Cherokees have no word for goodbye. We say, Dodadago Ha'i. Until we see each other again, Wado.